everyone, welcome to our tabletop discussion. I am Chelsea Schwartz. I'm the founder of High Voltage. I have Players Wanted, which is a Southern California board gaming group. We are on Meetup. I'm also the head of marketing and events at Scum and Villainy Cantina, produce a lot of gaming events there. And on top of that, I run Disney Observer, which we produce scavenger hunts at Disneyland and Walt Disney World a few times a year. And I will be leading this amazing panel with a bunch of good friends of mine. Everyone take a moment and introduce yourselves and what you do.
Hello, LA Comic Con. Oh, come on now. Hello, LA Comic Con. Nice. My name is Ruel Gaviola. I'm a writer, podcaster, content creator. You've probably seen my work, or maybe you've seen my work on Geek and Sundry, I Slay the Dragon, The Five By, That Hashtag Show, and many other things. And I'm happy to be here to talk about games.
I'm John Clare. I'm a game designer.
Excellent.
I'm Sarah Noel. I do a web series on YouTube and Twitch and Patreon called Crazy Board. We play board games on camera, basically. I do a lot of different things for it, whether it's editing or writing the opening monologue and things like that, and I do the music for it. And
can you guys hear Sarah?
And I'm really quiet.
I don't know if that likes.
I'm not good at speaking publicly.
She just needs to talk
I'm
closer.
good behind the scenes. I'll just repeat. Basically, I help produce a web series that's on YouTube and Twitch and Patreon called Crazy Board, where we have people playing board games on camera. They're like funny playthroughs.
Hi everyone, I'm Jackie. I am the show creator of a YouTube channel called Show Me How to Win. And on our channel, we focus on tabletop strategy. So we have playthroughs by lady gamers. I also interview designers, expert gamers. In fact, I just interviewed this guy right here Wednesday at AEG House on how to win on some of his games. So if you like winning, you should check out my channel.
I hate winning. I don't know about you.
I like winning when I'm doing it. So. I also love demoing games to people. That's actually how I got started in. I love playing games, but also I got into really involved in the community as a game demoer. So we're actually running some games in the concourse hall. If you guys got tired of the crowd, you guys want to stop by, if you're on your way.
If you got time, the concourse hall is between this wing and the wing across the street.
Hidden, so you guys really have to look for it. We're running some games there if you guys want to stop by later on. All right? Thank you.
Hello, I'm Chris Buskirk. I'm one of the owners of the Dragon and Meeple. We opened about 7 months ago. We're a board game pub, 500 board games, beer, wine, and an amazing kitchen.
Yes.
Chris doesn't even need a mic.
I know, guys.
Yeah.
It just projects.
Projecting.
Yeah.
Just projects.
And this
great.
place is only about 2 miles away.
Yep.
Yeah.
My credentials are not as good as most of the people on this board. I'm just a guy that likes to play games that got a really good opportunity to work for Players Wanted as a game master. I help teach games and co-host at Scum and Villainy Cantina.
Woo. Awesome. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about games, and then we're all going to play a game together, and some of you will have a chance to win some of these games you see on the table today, so definitely stick around. But basically, we wanted to talk about there is an insane volume of board games coming out these days. And it's getting harder and harder to decide where to spend your money. What game do you buy? What's on, do you go to Kickstarter? Are you just buying exclusive games at Target? Stuff like that. So what I'd first love to hear from everybody is what are your trusted sources to find a new game? Or instead of, if you don't have a source, maybe there's a game designer that you just know all of their games are incredible and you want their games. And who are they? Yes, John Clare is one of mine for sure. Who wants to start? Anybody?
I could start. I'm still one of those old-fashioned people that likes to go to the local game store. What do they have? What's new? You especially go to the ones that have that front area next to the cash register. You're like, this is our new stuff. I go to Paper Heroes Games, Emerald Knights Comics and Games. Those are my favorite local game stores. I also go to Geeky Tees, and all of them really have good spaces to be like, this is the place where you find the new stuff. They're browsing Kickstarter all the time, so you'll probably get stuff that's not in most stores. So, local game store all the way.
Should we just go this way?
Maybe we can. Whoever wants to jump in, whoever's got an answer
Take
ready.
the plunge, guys.
Honestly, most people hate it, but
Dragon and Meeple.
I get most of my gaming from /R board games. It really does have its finger on the pulse of gaming right now. It's grown by almost 1 million subscribers recently, and it has a lot of great information on there, and a lot of people are very willing, surprisingly willing to help for the reputation. A lot of subreddits have. That one is excellent.
For me, since I sort of am doing like in the industry as media, we get email notifications a lot from companies on something that's coming right out. So we get a lot of information from newsletters from companies that we have connections to. Also, I'm also on Instagram. I have, we check Instagram a lot, and a lot of times when you follow other Instagrammers, we see new games being posted specifically from another country. That's how we found out about like the new information.
Who are some of the Instagrammers that you follow that are game related?
Ruel is one of them. We follow each other. He gets all the new stuff because he works from Geek and Sundry, right? Also, I think there is this guy in Singapore, Playtography. He posts the most amazing picture. I actually follow accounts that post like really beautiful pictures, not necessarily for news, but a lot of times when they mention something that's European exclusives or something they're looking to, or they mention a game when we're talking about another game, that kind of thing. There is a guy, British guy. What's his? More Game Please?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
More Game Please? What's his name? What's his full
Ross.
name? Ross, right. So he's based in England, and he talks a lot about games that are from Europe. And also Board Game Girl, that's the Australian girl. She talks about the Australian games. So those two are some good ones to follow. If you like pretty board game pictures, there's an account called Board Games, etc. Yeah, check it out. I don't necessarily post newer games, but I post about some classic ones that people maybe haven't played for a while because we live sort of in a color new. We like to play new games, but I like to visit some of the older games because those are great too.
Totally.
So yeah, Instagram, emails, and also I have friends who always buys brand new games. So Jennifer, Jennifer, right? Yeah, she's like, she has to have the newest game right away. She pre-ordered them and then she plays them once or twice and she sells them right away. So
and then sells them.
It's great. You just go to her house for game night all the time, and
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I think personally for me, I like to pay attention to Origins, Gen Con, and Essen, and then read all of the blogs and all of the media to see what they liked out of the big gaming conventions, and then I just kind of go through like the top 10 from each of those and see if it's something that matches my style. Like I like a lot of engine building or hand management, worker placement, or deck builder games. I was like, so if it fits into that category and the theme isn't like something like zombie, because I don't do zombie and that, I was just like, then I'm like, yeah, all right, let's do it, let's try it.
Just to follow up on what Jackie's saying, as far as social media, like I use Facebook. I have, I joined my local Facebook group, and I'm out in Rancho Cucamonga, 909 represent. And I met a lot of friends there who played games, and we just connected through Facebook and also Instagram. And one thing led to another, and every week we're just talking on Facebook. Hey man, did you guys hear about that new game? Or oh, so and so's got this, let's go play that. So just using social media, I think, is a great way to find games that are in your wheelhouse. So something to think about.
We actually met through
a
mutual friend that we met on social media, Jack.
That's right. Yeah, we met through Jack. Yeah.
John, what about you?
So I actually want to take a quick survey of the room to get a gauge of people's board game knowledge currently. So I know if I'm recommending stuff that you guys have already heard of at all. So I'm going to name a few board games and just raise your hand if you've heard of it and or played it. Right. So like Settlers of Catan. Everybody, perfect, great.
Nice.
A little bit more current, King Domino.
I love King Domino.
Okay, great. All right. So Settlers came out in the 90s, right? And everyone's heard of it by now. King Domino won the same Game of the Year award, but only like 2 years ago. How about one on Kickstarter that came out, a game called Gugong? Okay, great. All right. So I think, so it sounds like a lot of you guys have played games, but aren't maybe tapped into every game that's coming out, right?
Which is very hard.
Yes,
Yeah, so
it's
like-
very hard.
so
That's why we're here, though.
Even when you do it for a living, it's very hard to keep up.
Yes.
My personal experience is not the normal, right? I go to Gen Con, which is the biggest game convention in America every year. I'll be going to Essen this year, which is a big game convention in Europe. These are conventions that like 60,000 people attend and like 800 new games are released at, right? But out of those conventions, the average person may end up playing 3 games, right, of those games that released. The average gamer even, right? So I think if I take myself back 8 years when I didn't know a lot about board games, but I knew I liked board games, I mean, I don't think we've mentioned
Wait, this
it.
entire journey you're on was only 8 years?
Yeah,
I'm really impressed right now, even more
I
impressed.
played board games as a kid.
Right, no, but like really learning about the building process and
Yeah,
everything else.
So my first game convention I ever went to was Strategicon here in LA. How many people have heard of Strategicon?
Happens 3 times a year. If you don't know about it, look it up.
And I assume everyone who's heard of it has been there. Yes, more or less. Yeah. So if you live in LA and board game sounds like something you want to explore, look up Strategicon. It's a family-friendly space for
All styles of games, and they also
showing
do
up.
role playing as well.
Yeah, if you're interested in role-playing as well, or miniatures games, or war games, or board games. They do it 3 times a year on one of the
Major
3-day
holiday weekends.
And it's like when I first went to Strategicon, it exploded my just understanding of how many games existed. And what's great there is you can go, and you don't have to learn from rule books. You sign up for tutorials, people teach you the game, and then you can hop in like a demo game or a tournament and just have some fun, right? I would go to places like Chris's store. So if you know about a local game store, you can look it up online, I'm sure. You can find your local game store. Chris's place is particularly good because it's not only a game store, it's a game cafe. You go there and you pull a game off the shelf and say, this looks cool, and then someone there can teach you how to play, right? And I don't know if we've mentioned it, but Board Game Geek. I mean, everyone. How many people have heard of BoardGameGeek.com? Right.
Like
So for those of you who have not heard of BoardGameGeek.com, it is
A huge resource.
encyclopedia of everything board game.
And it's still one of the original like message board forum sites that still has an active message board and forum. It's really incredible.
Yeah. So Board Game Geek is a big deal for anyone who's in the industry, but even for consumers, it's great. I would warn you, if you're just getting into board games, to not go to the #1 game of all time on Board Game Geek. So Board Game Geek tends to, they rank all the games that have ever come out in history of board games, right? And you can see which one's the greatest of all time, and then the second greatest, the 1,000th greatest. Don't start at #1 because the system there is heavily weighted towards very complicated games, and that's not the place to start. What you want to do is you want to go in there and you want to select top family games of all time. And there you'll find a bunch of games if you're just getting into the hobby
Or get into whatever genre you like. If you like
Sure.
party games,
Sure,
look
yeah.
for the top party games,
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, with that said, everybody on the panel, what are your preferred styles of games to play? Like, I love deck builders.
So I'll hop in first. if
Yeah.
that's all right. It depends on who I'm playing with.
Okay.
We're probably going to use some terminology people have never heard of, people in this room. My favorite game usually is like an engine builder.
Yeah.
Engine building games tend to be where you start with something small and ineffectual, and through your choices you're going to build that thing into this really interesting combo engine. And I love games that sort of keeping that feeling of strong progression and growing power in the game. I find that a lot.
You mean like your games?
Yeah, a lot like John's games. A lot of his games are engine builders.
I tend to design those kind of
Yeah.
games.
I like worker placement games, and
Yes.
this mechanism is you take your little worker meeple and you place it on a spot on the board, and you take that action. One of my favorite worker placement games, probably my all-time favorite, is Viticulture, which is a game about making wine, and I do like the theme as well. So it's one of those games where everything just works smoothly, and I find it easy to teach new players. But yeah, that's one game I highly recommend.
I don't know if I have like one preference because I'm still kind of perfecting my strategies in each genre, and I'm not good at any of them yet, but I love all of them. And I like games that combine different mechanics too. Like I'm starting to really get more and more into engine building, like you guys are talking about, and I also like worker placement, two completely different things. But some games like some games will combine those, and I think that's like makes it extra interesting. So I like a lot of variety and different ways of winning, and I'm not good at winning, but I always I'll play it and then I'll realize afterwards oh, I should have done that, and that's like my strategy. But
you should watch Jackie's videos. She helps you win.
Yeah, those are really great.
And speaking of Jackie, what about you?
I'll mention two mechanics, and so they're kind of counterintuitive because I enjoy deduction games, but I also love perfect information games. So it's kind of like oxymoron. So deduction is like Clue. So you're trying to figure out something through asking logical, solving a logical puzzle. So I love games like that. And there's a new game that's on Kickstarter right now, The Search for Planet X. I'm really excited about that one. But I also love something called perfect information. So in more heavier games, strategy games, I prefer to play games that does not involve any dice rolling or any hidden information. I want to see what everybody else is doing, and I figure out the best way to best my opponents just through knowing what options I have. So, in a longer format, I prefer perfect information. In a shorter format, I prefer deduction. But for me, theme is also very important.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what your next question is. Depending on the theme, even if it's a game that I know I might not like mechanic-wise, if it's a theme that I like, for example, if
you might get into it.
A cat on it. If it has...
That's like me with Disney games.
Right,
yeah.
Right. If it's Asian theme, I will play it. So.
Yeah. Chris?
I personally tend to the very heavy Euro side. Euro games tend to be about efficiency, and you all have the same abilities, but who can do it the best with what you're given? And those tend to be, viticulture would be considered a Euro game. That's one of my favorites of all time. Although recently, over the last couple of years, legacy games are a new category of games that have come out, and most of them have blown me away. The core of a legacy game is that it starts off the original game. The first one to come out was Risk Legacy. No one wants to play Risk. It's past
you got someone in the front row that'll play with you, Chris.
But they came out and took...
I still think Risk is good.
I'm the only person that wants to play Monopoly.
It takes 9 hours to play because someone turtles in Australia.
The Australia strategy is brutal.
Yeah.
So, Rob Davio was sitting there at Hasbro. He's like, well, what if the game stayed? What if some changes you made to the game were permanent? And Hasbro said, run with it. So if you nuke a place, now that place is radioactive in all future games, and people die when they enter that territory.
So the game will actually come with stickers, and you put a sticker on the board.
Oh, you now rip up this card, and it's out of never to be used. New characters, new factions can enter the game. And it's taken some tried and true games like Pandemic that was already a good game, but when they added the legacy format onto it, it shot up and became the #1 game of all time for well over a year and a half on Board Game Geek. So there's just a lot of interesting design space that was opened up by this permanence. You're like, oh, well, once you've played it, you can never play it again. Well, how many games have you played more than 15 times?
And Peter, what about you?
It's actually really interesting that Chris brought that up because more legacy games need to happen. I actually think people play legacy games longer than a traditional board game. A perfect example of this is Betrayal on House on the Hill. The original game, the original game comes with a ton of pieces. You build your mansion as you explore, and as creepy things happen in this house, one of you becomes a betrayer, tries to kill everyone else. Now, the legacy version of this gives you like 5 pieces to the house. It's literally like a shed at the size that you're doing it. And then something happens, and people die, and then suddenly the history of the mansion, the original mansion from Betrayal, is made through your experiences. So you start unlocking new rooms because now that year is over, and years later, somebody added a new part to the house. So the house is growing as you're playing, and new things happen, and it's just really exciting to get through that. Now, Legacy is actually not my favorite, but it is something that I really like. I tend to go towards worker placement and engine building, but right now I'm really heavy on Scythe still. Scythe is just such a great game for engine building for me. But that being said, Stonemaier Games released Wingspan, which has a small element of engine building, where you're collecting birds and having them lay eggs and create more birds. And now it's like whoever has the most points and the most different collection of birds wins. It's just it's really nice to look at, and it's really great mechanics. So yeah, engine building has to be my top though.
Cool.
Definitely.
I was like, so now that everybody in the room kind of knows the styles of, I wanted to ask that question. So everybody in this room, if you're looking for a new game recommendation, you know what we like playing. So if we're recommending a game, you might be like, oh, well, I like what they like, so that works. So there's a ton of games constantly coming out. And I just want to talk about this last year, this last 12 months, and what's a game that's really caught your eye, or a game that you've played a few times, and with that said, also if there's anything coming out in the next 6 to 8 months or whatever that you're also into, let's talk about that. And I'll start, and if anybody else loves the game, feel free to add in your 2 cents. But Disney Villainous, I love. Usually Disney games come out and they're made for a 6-year-old, and like I still love them because I love Disney, but this is such great strategy, and every villain is so perfectly balanced and unique, and you really live the story. So like I'm a huge Alice in Wonderland person, and playing Queen of Hearts, I come across the Mad Hatter and the Dormouse and the March Hare and all the characters that I love, and it's amazing. And each expansion that's come out, including the one that just came out in August with Scar and Yzma and Ratigan, the villains are getting new mechanics, and they're getting a little bit more intriguing and harder, and the artwork's gorgeous. I'm really impressed with this game.
They worked the theme into it really well too.
Yes.
So for those who haven't played Villainous, each player plays as one of the famous villains from the Disney megaverse.
And it's not even just a famous villain. I mean, they're doing like Ratigan. I had to demo this at D23, and everybody was like, Ratigan? I was like, from Great Mouse Detective. They were like, that's a Disney movie? I'm like, yes, it is. Like, and so they're like, they don't have Gaston yet, but they have Ursula and Maleficent, and Yzma's come out, and Scar's a villain now, and like, it's great.
Remind me, the game works where I have cards that are like, I can be my henchman or something, right? So if I'm Maleficent,
so every villain has their own objective.
But my opponents can draw cards from the hero deck,
from your fate deck,
and then they can play like the Disney heroes on me.
Yes, so you're the villain in your story, and you're the hero in everybody else's story. I was like, to stop the other villains from winning, because you want to win, you're the villain that wants to win, you become the hero in everyone else's story. So if you're Maleficent, I might play Prince Philip onto your board, and if I'm Yzma, you might put Cusco and Pacha onto my board, and stuff like that. It's really well done. I love Villainous.
And it uses the core system from Scythe.
There you go. Anybody else?
It does.
I was going to bring up Everdell, because
that's a great one.
That one came out recently, and it kind of goes with what I was saying about combining different mechanisms, and it's also like the most beautiful artwork ever. And it's like the components are crazy. They've got like an actual tree, like that you build, and you like. That's where some of the cards go. It's a worker placement game, but it's also really replayable more than a lot of others, because there's spaces that are already built onto the board, and then there's also like randomized cards that you put onto the board that give you additional actions you can do, and you're collecting resources, and even the resources are like, they feel good in your hands. They're just like, it's a really well-made game, and it's really well designed, and it has, you're building like a city, and you have these cards, so you're purchasing cards and trying to get the cards to work together and kind of multiply points, and it's like whoever earns the most points wins. But it's like the way that you pick your different cards, that if I have this card, I have like a character that's like the queen, and if I get the king, if I have the queen, I can get the king for free or something like that. Like certain cards will get you other cards for free. You don't have to pay resources to get them, and then like you earn at the end of the game for every one of this type of card, you get double points or whatever. So everything multiplies together and like synergizes together really well. And it's just a really interesting, different game. And it's becoming my favorite game. I love it.
Yeah, Everdell's definitely a great
game.
game.
Couple expansions too, so that they have had additional things you can add onto the board and other areas you can go to, and you're playing as a little woodland creature, so it's just really cute, and there's a lot of good flavor text.
Little woodland creatures.
Yes, that is a big theme going on in games
We
lately.
like cute things.
I'll say another game that I can't.
It's a really complex game, but it's really simple to understand how to play. I like that too. It's really easy to explain to people, even if they're like new gamers. So
Yeah, it's an impressive looking. If you're just looking at the game too, it's just it is beautiful. There's another game that just has a lot of replayability, and I find oddly satisfying, and I can't really explain why beyond this. But Tiny Towns.
I was about to bring that up.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Well, Chris, you talk about Tiny Towns.
Tiny Towns is an amazing,
More woodland creatures.
basically tight game where you're all, like I said, little woodland creatures, and resources come. You can't be picky and choosy. Things are scarce. So when you each take turns calling out a resource like glass. When glass is available, everybody must take it and place it on their board. And you're building these little Tetris shapes to place buildings in your little 4x4 grid. So you don't have much room to work with. So you're forced to take these cubes every turn and create.
And you have to be really careful about where you're placing.
Interesting decisions at every single move. I have to take this wood. How best can I use this wood? I'm gonna get a stone this next turn. It's a great game.
I think if you're interested in
Lots of
pretty games about little woodland creatures, Tiny Towns is a great light one to start if you're not familiar with games, and Everdell's a great next step. Right, I think in the woodland creature complexity game.
And then after that, roots right after that.
We've really pinholed a specific genre here.
But if you have decision paralysis like I do, then that makes it a little more difficult. Like, I found myself taking forever to take my turn on that one because it was like
Everdell is very.
That one is too. I was talking about Tiny Towns. Maybe that's just me. I don't know.
So Tiny Towns has a lot of decision complexity, but very simple rules complexity, which for many gamers they consider that a element of good design.
Yeah, if you have issues with spatial awareness, then Tiny Towns can be a little hard because you're constantly trying to turn the pieces around in your head like a 3D Tetris.
The beauty of that game is looking at someone else's board and figuring out what they're going to call, because like Chris said, what they want you're going to have to place on your board for better or worse. So the beauty of that type of game is recognizing what other people are going to do and then making your decisions based on that, based on your best guess of what other people's best move is.
All right, I guess everyone's looking at me right now.
Well, you looked like you were about to speak.
Yeah, because I was, but I was like, Gizmos, actually. I think, is that cool mini or not?
Yes.
Gizmos is you're making a machine. I think that's literally the explanation. You're making a machine.
You're making a gizmo?
A gizmo that does stuff. But it's very, very engine building. Gathering the resources needed to build the device, and on your turn you have a selection of collecting marbles or building the device or collecting the device, and you're storing parts in preparation of making this gizmo larger. And it's just really fun thinking ahead of what kind of device am I making? Oh, I'm going to use a lot of black marble components. Let's build a device that utilizes black marbles as to the best extent. There's different colors that do different things, and that is one of my favorite right now of engine building.
I wonder how many of you have played or heard of Splendor. So Splendor is very much similar to
Splendor's a great
game. But Gizmos is nicknamed Splendor Killer.
Yeah, Gizmos is definitely.
Agreed.
I think Splendor's better as well.
Nope, Gizmo, sorry.
Splendor's been tried and true for years, though. It's been around for a while.
That is true. I mean, I really do like Splendor, actually.
It's that difference, right? Because in Gizmos, I kind of don't care what other people do. And I'm building my engine, which is fine. I enjoy those kind of games. But Splendor's so good about, again, what are they going to do, right? Yes. And therefore, given what I think they're going to do, I should do this, right?
It's kind of like Century Spice Road. I feel the same way. I love that one as well. In terms of theming, Jackie was talking about the importance of theme for me. I've really I have to say that the op has been killing it lately with their original games coming out. Like, they used to just be, let's reskin Monopoly and Clue, and that was what the company was. But they've, like, when they brought out Hogwarts Battle, the cooperative, like, Harry Potter game, that was amazing.
Great game.
But the one that just came out, the Defense Against the Dark Arts, that builds from that world and then makes it like a dueling game, it's phenomenal. Like, I just like.
And their game Thanos Rising. That's
Thanos Rising was incredible.
About that one.
And they're basically reskinning Thanos Rising to make a Star Wars version now.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's not going to be
Vader
out
Rising.
In the US,
right?
yes.
Yeah,
Death
so-
Star Rising.
Death Star Rising, yeah.
But yeah, and with that said, mentioning the op has a reskin for Talisman for Kingdom Hearts coming out that I'm really looking forward to, and they're doing a Toy Story deck building game as well that I was like, all right,
Nice.
yeah,
And they just released Batman Talisman, which
Yeah.
we got to play at Scum and Villainy. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Anybody else got one that they?
You mentioned Everdell. I don't remember the artist's name, but he's also the artist for Tapestry. Has anyone heard of Tapestry from Stonemaier Games? I'm a big Stonemaier Games fanboy. And this game it was totally hyped up the last couple of months, and I got a copy, and it lives up to the hype. I really enjoy it. It's billed as a civilization game, but I find it's more of an engine building game. Have you guys played Tapestry yet?
I've been hearing about it a lot.
I figured
Yeah.
someone's going to talk about it.
Yeah, I was going to be that guy. But for me, what I love about this game, it's really easy to learn as far as you're just going up one track. You just do one thing every turn, move up a track.
Rule
and
book is 4 pages.
it's 4 pages. You know, it's super easy to learn, but there's so much depth to it. You know, the more, it's all about timing. You're trying to get one more resource to do one more thing, to go up one more track to get that cool little landmark. And I mean, talk about table present. This game is absolutely gorgeous. So, Tapestry, play it.
Awesome. All right, so right now we are passing out bingo cards down the sides of the room. So, like, if you don't have one yet, they're working their way back. What we're going to do, if you have a pen or a pencil, take it out. We are going to do a couple rounds of this. What you need to do is you need to find someone else in the room. It cannot be yourself, but it can be any of the panelists. You can come talk to us and have them sign for the squares on your sheet. It was like, so you're looking, like if it says that you own a PlayStation 4, you're looking for somebody that owns a PlayStation 4 and they can sign their name. Only one person can sign for one box per card. So once you've signed someone's page, that's it. You get one box per person. And to start this off with, we're looking for the first person to get just a bingo, any 5 in a row. So does everyone have a sheet yet, or are they still, where are they on the sides?
Do we have pens?
Do you guys have them in the back? Oh, they've got a few more people to go. Anybody else have one more game to recommend before we get started with that?
Jackie.
I want to talk about the game that I sort of touched on that's on Kickstarter now.
Yeah, go for it.
Search for Planet X, because I thought the theme is really
Let's put a microphone in front of you.
Okay. I want to put it in front of Sarah before. Okay, so the search for Planet X is actually based on the real life search for Planet X. So there's this theory about a 10th planet in our solar system that supposedly is orbiting the sun behind Pluto. And the theory was put out in 2015 that this thing exists, and astronomers are still trying to debate if it exists or not. So there's this deduction game that's based off of this theory that's on Kickstarter now. You can back it. It's by Foxtrot Games.
Everybody wait to start signing things until we tell you to start.
Basically, it's backed by an app. So if you download the app, and it'll basically decide, there's like, say, 8 sections of, and then the app's going to decide where Planet X is. And you will, every round, ask for a question, ask the app to give you an answer. So if you scan a section, is there any dwarf planet there? Yes, no. Or is there any, like basically bodies with stars or whatever those things are. And they have logical rules. So Planet X will scan as nothing because it's a black hole, right? But it can never coexist. It can never be adjacent to dwarf planets. So if there is one, if you scan for a dwarf planet, the 2 adjacent sections will not be where Planet X is. So basically, you try to look for things like that, and then you solve a logical puzzle with an app. But you also have a piece of paper that you mark off, just like the old school Clue. So it's a blend between old school and new school deduction games.
Cool.
So that's a game that I highly recommend, and you guys can back it right
And
now.
that's currently on Kickstarter, so you guys can check that out.
Search for Planet X.
All right, so with that said, I think everyone find us in a variety of places. I'll let everyone go down and talk about all their channels and their socials. I produce a board game night every Monday night at Scum and Villainy here in Hollywood. It is free. We do raffle prizes every hour on the hour. We give away full box games and a whole bunch more. We bring different games every week. It's a lot of fun. If you are a Disneyland annual pass holder, I do scavenger hunts at Disneyland. They average about 42 teams with 225 people. They are a ton of fun. We have prizes for the top 5 teams. You can come talk to me about that. All of my social media, you can find me personally, Uncool Rockstar. That is my personal account everywhere. Otherwise, for anything Disney, Disney Observer. What about you, Raul?
I am mainly on Twitter and Instagram. Find me on Twitter at Ruel Gaviola. If you don't know how to spell it, come on up and I'll show you how to spell it. Okay, thanks.
Don't bother following me.
Just buy his games.
Games of mine you can check out are Space Base, Mystic Vale, and my next game coming out is Eco's First Continent.
Very good game.
Yeah.
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter, not the first Noel, because my last name is Noel, and it's 1ST. And also Crazy Board, you can follow. You can check out our show on YouTube.
You can also game with her Mondays at Scum and Villainy.
Yes, I'm there every Monday,
Yeah.
and we also host events at Guildhall in Burbank every first Wednesday of the month, and we do a kind of similar thing, which is a game night. Guildhall is a really fun, it's like an esports bar, but they have board games there too, and they're really cool. And our channel is actually youtube.com/meeplesden, so it's more of like it has other shows on it too. So it's got Crazy Board as well as a D&D show and a new show that has to do more with video games, like retro games. And you can follow that you can find that on social media, Meeples Den or just Crazy Board. And you can grab a sticker up here if you want. You can talk to me if you want more information. We have a new season coming up too soon this month. Cool.
Speaking of the stickers, I also have Disney Observer scavenger hunt buttons if anybody wants a button.
So you can follow me on Instagram at boardgames.etc. Board Games etc. And my channels are called Show Me How to Win. So YouTube Show Me How to Win. We're also on Twitter. I think it's on Twitter. It's a Show Me How #2 Win.
We are on Facebook, Dragon and Meeple, and Facebook and Instagram, Dragon and Meeple. It's on the cards here. Please grab one. Come on by. We're open 6 days a week, Tuesday through Sunday.
You guys can look me up on Facebook, but on Instagram it's The Unbored Gamer, board spelled B-O-R-E-D. I'm really trendy like that. And I don't have anything to give you guys except a crisp high five, so,
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Play more games.
Yes. Hashtag play more games.